There was a boom and the whole house felt like it was just moving. It's not normal, so we're just watching as it happens.
Okay, pause for a second with what you're doing. Earthquakes in South Carolina, fault lines in South Carolina, many fault lines, dangerous fault lines. Come on, you might think, what is Blondie talking about? Guys, South Carolina just today was shaken by the strongest earthquakes in 6 months and already the 4th quake in 2026. What is going on there? Guys, look at that map. These are the fault lines in South Carolina. Did you know that? I bet many of you didn't. If you're living in South Carolina, let me know. Did you feel any of the shaking? Are you aware of that? So let's dig in. What is happening there? So the frequency of the earthquakes that we see there, they're still considered minor in size, is alarming some people or some scientists. Although the common consensus right now is they don't think this is an indicator for a stronger earthquake, but how can they know? This is the question. But they're recommending to residents review your earthquake insurance coverage and secure household items as precautionary measures. So they're saying this, but they're saying this. Guys, let's be careful here. So just overnight, we had 3 more earthquakes in less than 12 hours, basically from Wednesday to Thursday. Magnitude 1.6 earthquake was confirmed. Then we had a magnitude 2.5 earthquake, was followed by a magnitude 1.8 earthquake, according to the US Geological Survey. So we're not talking in the super micro seismic range. These are some that can be noticed, especially since they are quite shallow. And where were they recorded? All 3 of them in South Carolina's Lowcountry area. And if we go in a 10-day span, we already have 6 earthquakes. So South Carolina, it's shaking again. And if you live anywhere near Lowcountry, Charleston, Centerville, Ladson, it isn't just a random little tremor story anymore. It's just not. So this is a pattern that we call a cluster, an earthquake swarm. A reminder that there is something underneath South Carolina that is not as quiet as many people think. Here's the part that is very, very interesting, because South Carolina isn't sitting on any famous plate boundary or subduction zone or something like the San Andreas Fault or something, right? So you wouldn't think that there is something rumbling underneath. Like in California, so many places, right? California, I'm reporting about it every day. There is so much. We just discussed Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, 30-foot tsunami. There's fault lines right underneath. Triple Junction, Mendocino is not triple anymore. It's now 5 plate boundaries that are meeting. There's so much stuff. Check out the videos in the end screen, guys. You have to see this. But South Carolina, you'd think this is the place where you move away if you do not want to deal with earthquakes, right? Then you have to deal with hurricanes, but earthquakes. So South Carolina, guys, has a history of producing one of the most violent earthquakes ever recorded on the US East Coast. Did you know that? So then when we see right now quake after quake popping up in this area right now, in the same area, the question becomes a little bit larger. And the question is, are these harmless pops, harmless earthquakes? Nothing to see here. Or is this the kind of region that can load up and deliver something much, much bigger? So let's break down what is happening there right now, where the danger zones actually are in South Carolina, and how big, and that's important, an earthquake can realistically get here based on the science that we have right now and the history. So let's start with the February cluster with the current shaking, right? Early to mid-February this year, South Carolina has been hit with multiple small earthquakes, and several are clustered around the Lowcountry, Charleston area. places like Centerville and Somerville. And one of the key events that people felt was a magnitude 2.9 earthquake late at night. And late at night is never nice, right? It was described as the strongest South Carolina quake in about 6 months, and it didn't stop at just one. So we have a local reporting that is compiled of lists of earthquakes across only a handful of days, and it shows repeated events in the same general region. February 3rd, 2.0 near Centerville. February 7th, the 2.9 late night quake. February 9th, 1.6 near Latson. February 11th, additional shaking, including a 2.4 near Centerville. And February 12th, more events, including one around 1.8. So that kind of one after another cluster pattern is exactly where people start asking, what the heck is going on underneath us? Is Shizzy going to hit the fizzy? And the quakes are shallow. Although quakes in the magnitude 2 range are still considered minor, if they're so shallow, they can still feel sharp and startling. They can. So yes, these are small quakes, but here's the but. The story is the repetition and the location. So big question, are they dangerous fault lines in South Carolina? And the answer is yes. Yes, and the dangerous part is that many of them are buried. You don't see them. San Andreas Fault in California, you see it, right? Quite obvious. If you fly over it, you see the scar, but you don't see them here. Most people, when they imagine fault lines, they picture like a dramatic crack in the ground, right? But in South Carolina, the major issue is the faults can be hidden under like very thick coastal sediments, which makes them harder to map and also understand. So right now, in the headline is the seismic zone Charleston, Somerville area. That's basically South Carolina's most infamous seismic region. It's called the Charleston seismic zone, also known as the Middleton Place or the Somerville seismic zone. And within that complicated buried system, researchers have discussed major structures, including faults such as the Ashley River Fault and the Woodstock Fault in Somerville and in the Somerville area. So what does that mean? In plain language, the Lowcountry area has a real earthquake engine beneath it, and part of it is ancient, part of it is buried, and it can still reactivate, and it is still speaking with us, right, with these earthquakes. But I said it previously, we're not on a plate boundary, so that is correct, but that's kind of what makes it feel a little sneaky, what's going on there. So what we're dealing with here, they're often described as intraplate earthquakes, meaning they occur inside the North American plate and not at the edges. So the east of the US has fewer earthquakes than the west, that for sure. But when the big ones happen, they can travel farther through older, colder crust. So shaking can be felt across huge areas. That is the danger in this area. And I think, in my opinion, the biggest question that everyone cares about, and let me know if that's your biggest question as well, how big can earthquakes get in South Carolina? What magnitudes are we talking about? So we do have what they call the historical monster, 1886, the Charleston earthquake. On August 31st, 1886, the Charleston Somerville region was hit by we have to say, guys, catastrophic earthquake, widely estimated at the magnitude around 6.9 to 7.3. So that is large. That is large, especially since we now learned these earthquakes can travel further. So when we look at South Carolina's own emergency management materials, they describe it as the most damaging earthquake in the eastern United States, with shaking lasting close to 1 minute and impact felt across an enormous large region. 1 minute shaking, guys, this is long. This is really, really long. So let that sink in. South Carolina produced an earthquake so powerful, it wasn't just felt in the next town, as you can imagine. It was felt across states, and it damaged buildings on a scale that made it, I have to say it, legendary. Legendary. So what is the upper limit? What's the upper limit of magnitude that we could see there? Based on one historical record alone, South Carolina has already demonstrated it can produce a magnitude 7-ish earthquake in the Charleston region. So to make that clear, that doesn't mean that because of the earthquakes that we see there right now that a magnitude 7 is about to happen. But it means that the state has a real precedent for large destructive earthquakes, especially around this Lowcountry seismic zone. Boof, there it is. Did you know that, guys? I'm really interested in what your experience is. Let me know in the comments. Did you expect that? There's more to that story. But do me a favor, can you give this video a like and a hype right now? Supports my channel and it doesn't cost you anything. Thanks so much for your support. So, are the earthquakes that we're dealing with right now, and especially the February earthquakes, a warning sign of something bigger? And my honest answer, small clusters do not automatically mean a major earthquake is next. We know that. Some just subside. Many swarms stay small and they fade out. But I have a second honest answer for you. And that is, clusters matter because they tell you where the crust is active right now, where something is breaking or moving. And when we see such an activity in a region with a proven history of extreme earthquakes, like the Charleston, Centerville area, it raises the urgency of preparedness, building resilience, and not dismissing the risk as, that's only California stuff. It's not. So local reporting that comes out from the area, especially in February, it frames the recent Lowcountry quakes as a reminder of South Carolina's violent past. And that's the right framing, in my opinion. People need to become aware of this, because I bet you so many people move to the area from other states. They have no clue, even people that live there. I mention it so often. I'm living on the Cascadia subduction zone, and I'm meeting so many people that have absolutely no clue, and they have lived here for generations. In my opinion, what people should do there right now, without panicking, if you live there, I don't want to scare you, but I want to tell you just to get ready. Be as prepared as you are. If you're in South Carolina, especially in the Lowcountry, know the basics. If there's an earthquake, drop, cover, hold on during shaking. So secure tall furniture if you can, bookcases, TVs, anything that can topple and fall down on you while the shaking starts. If you're in older masonry or brick structures, understand that those can move and they can be more vulnerable to collapse during shaking. And the problem is, in Charleston, we have a large historic building stock, and that is part of why the 1886 quake is remembered the way it is, as catastrophic as it was. And if you can, have a quake app on your phone. Pay attention to local quake information from the USGS and the state emergency management, and don't rely on rumors, right? Look at what is happening. But in just a minute, I'm going to tell you the scariest part of the East Coast earthquakes, why a big one here can affect a surprisingly wide region compared to what people expect. I would call it the East Coast problem that nobody talks about. So one reason East Coast quakes can feel unsettling is how widely the shaking can spread compared to similar magnitudes on the West Coast. We have older, harder crust. Seismic waves can travel efficiently there. Nothing is smoothing them down. And that is spreading the experience of shaking over much larger distances. So even if an epicenter is outside of a larger city, people in a wide radius may still feel it, sometimes in places that don't even think of themselves as earthquake areas. So right now, South Carolina is experiencing a real run of earthquakes right now, including the 2.9, which was the strongest in month, plus multiple other. So we do have these dangerous seismic zones, and we have historical precedents. So hopefully these quakes might fade out tomorrow, or they might continue. Then it's a reminder South Carolina's ground is not stable in the way people assume. So I hope you found this interesting. Let me know. Did you know that? I really like to discuss this with you guys. And thanks for liking and hyping. If you want to support the channel, link is in the description. You can buy me a coffee or click the join button to become a supporting member. You'll get behind the scene videos about my private life and chaotic stuff that's going on. Shout out to all my members. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. You are awesome. And yeah, check out what's here in the end screen. You won't believe that. And I'll see you there in a second, hopefully. Bye-bye.